However, consider this. He is hot. Hey guys, before we get into this video, I wanted to let you know that you can now watch my full reactions to the first season of Percy Jackson on my Patreon. Full reaction videos over there, so you guys can go and watch me watch the entire episode, because my reaction videos are very cropped and very edited so that I can post them on YouTube. But now you can go watch the full episodes. I also think I'm going to watch the show again and do sort of commentary tracks with them so I can talk about specific things in the show as I watch it, and you guys can watch the episodes with me. I think that that'd be a really fun thing to do. So make sure you go to my Patreon and check that out. There's gonna be a whole lot of stuff coming over there, so you don't wanna miss it. Hey everyone, welcome back to another one of my YouTube videos. Today we are doing something very fun, something I think I've only ever done once on this channel, but I didn't even edit it. My boyfriend edited that video for me because I was like 4 years ago? No, there's no way. Was it in 2020? I can't remember. But we are doing a character tier list. I've put together pretty much all the relevant Percy Jackson characters from season 1 of the show, so we're doing this based on the show, by the way. And we are going to put the Percy Jackson characters into a tier list. I think that this will be pretty fun, so let's go ahead and do it. So starting out with Augustus. Augustus is in episode 6 of the show. We take a zebra to Vegas. He's the other satyr that's in the Lotus Casino. And he kind of like helps distract Grover. I talked about this in my episode ranking in episode 6 of the show. Whenever it cut to Grover and Augustus, I was bored. I was not having a fun time with them. I am sure maybe Augustus will become important later on when it comes to Grover's search for Pan. I know that that's something they're very much setting up. But in terms of just season 1, Augustus was boring and I didn't like him. So we're putting him in D. Sorry. I hate to say it. Also, I don't know if this happened to anybody else, but when I was watching the show, I thought that that was Mark Hamill. So next we have Alecto, aka Mrs. Dodds. You know, it's kind of hard to say how I'm going to be doing this tier list because it's on, you know, whether or not the character is good themselves, but it's also like the writing of the character, whether or not I liked them personally. So this is a very subjective tier list, if you can't tell. Mrs. Dodds, I think the actress that played her was amazing. So this is nothing on the actress, just the character of Mrs. Dodds. You know, the Furies are annoying. They just won't stop. They're relentless. She was fine though. Like, the character of Mrs. Dodds was fine. She was in quite a few episodes. Last we saw her was the finale when she takes Hades' Helm of Darkness back to him in the underworld. She's fine. I'll put her in C tier. She's okay. All right. We have our first big trio member, Annabeth Chase. That's obvious. This is a given. I loved how they did Annabeth in the show. She was great. I just adore her so much. I think Leah Jeffries is a perfect Annabeth. She was wise girl. She was smart. She was funny. Loved her. Next, we have Ares. I actually really liked Ares in this show. I think Adam Copeland is a fantastic Ares. I wish I could see more of Ares. I can't wait to see more of him. He was great. But now, the character of Ares himself kind of sucks. He's stupid. He's a bad dad. So this one's tricky. Ares as a character, I'll put him in B tier. He sucks, but he's funny. But he's only funny because he's stupid. So it's not a compliment to him. It's an insult, if anything. Next, we have the Chimera. I did put some of the monsters in here just because I felt like it. I think the Chimera is so cute. And I know that that's a weird take to have. But the Chimera did exactly what he needed to do. I am going to put him or her. Did they give a gender to the Chimera? I can't remember. She's going to go in C tier just because... No, I'll put her... No. Do I want to put her above Mrs. Dodds? We'll put her in C tier just because she did try to kill Percy Jackson. Next, we have Chiron. He was fantastic. I loved Glenn Turman as Chiron. Very wise, very smart man. He says some of my favorite lines in the show. He's great. We didn't see too much of him though. You know what I mean? We only really saw him in episodes 1, 2, and 8. Trying to think. I'll give him A tier, right? We'll go with A. Next, we have Chris Rodriguez. He was really not in this season all that much, which is more than fine by me. I don't know, he kind of seems like Luke's bitch. Sorry, excuse my language, but he does. I'm gonna put him in C tier. He'll go above Electo and the Chimera, but he didn't really give me anything. Very much a C tier character so far. Obviously, this is only based off of season 1. Next, we have Clarice, my girl. She ate up her screen time. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I think that she stole most of the scenes that she was in. I feel awful for her because she got blamed for being the lightning thief when it simply just was not her. She did try to give Percy Jackson a swirly. So we're gonna put her in A tier behind Kyron, just because this is just based off season 1. This is probably not where she would go if I were to do it based off like the characters in the books, which I can do that tier list if you guys want to see that. But this just based on season 1, she's here because I like her and I think she's funny and I think she's badass. She is kind of still a bully villain right now, but her time will come. She gets A tier just because she got blamed for something that she did not do. Next, we have Krusty. And even though the actor slayed in the role, he is also getting D tier because he is crusty. He is horrid to look at, absolutely disgusting, no hair maintenance going on there. He's like 1,000-something years old. And also, he's trying to trap kids. Hey, get a different profession. That's weird. You're weird. He also gets D tier because he was outsmarted by a bunch of kids. Hey, that's embarrassing. So yeah. He goes into D tier. Love the actor though, he did great. Next we have Dionysus. I think Jason Mantzoukas as Dionysus is literally one of the best castings because he is so hilarious. Now we only get to see him in episode 2 and a little bit in episode 8, so we don't get to see too much of him. But what we do see from him in episode 2 is so funny. Him lying to Percy and being like, I am your father, is so funny. Now when it comes to all of the gods, they are all deadbeat parents. Let's just get that out in the open. All of the gods suck as parents, okay? Let's just, as long as we can admit that, we're good. So once we move past the fact that he sucks as a parent, he is funny. He is absolutely hilarious. And, you know, I do feel bad for him that he does have to run a camp of children. That does kind of suck. I kind of want to knock some points off from him as a character because he does drink Diet Coke. I'm trying to decide between A tier just because he's funny, or B tier. I feel like B tier is just going to be where all the gods end up, mostly. We'll put him in B tier above Ares just because his life is seemingly a little bit more miserable, so I do have to give him some bonus points there. His life does suck, so we'll give him that. Next, we have Echidna, mother of monsters. And now I will say, she slayed in her screen time. She was scary, and she was frightening, and I think she was really great. However, once again, her main goal in life is to kill demigods, so that does kind of make her a bad person. She served, but we are unfortunately putting her in C tier. I think I will put her above Chris Rodriguez though, just because her presence in her episode was really strong. All right, next we have Gabe. If I had an F tier, that's where Gabe would end up. Unfortunately, we only have D tier, so he is gonna go behind Augustus. Gabe sucks. Gabe obviously sucks. There's literally nothing else to say about him but the fact that he sucks. You want to talk about a deadbeat parent? Look no further than Gabe Ugliano. Next, we have Grover. Sweet Grover. I loved what they did with Grover in the show, especially in season 1. If I was doing a tier list based off of the Lightning Thief book, Grover would honestly probably not be going where he's about to go, but the show I think made him a better character early on. In the first book, Grover is sort of just like a ball of anxiety and kind of annoying. And I say that with love. I love Grover. I really do. But I do like him more in the show. I do think he's a little bit smarter. He is utilized better in the show. So he's going to go up in S tier with Annabeth, but he's going to be behind Annabeth. Next, we have Hades. I have many thoughts on Hades. It's kind of hard to gauge him in just the show, especially just in season 1. Because in terms of him being a deadbeat dad, we're going to be able to critique that more when we're introduced to Nico. But in just season 1 of the show, I don't know, he kind of slayed. I don't know what else to tell you. He kind of slayed a little bit. He did, however, try to offer Grover and Percy pomegranate juice, ultimately trapping them in the underworld. So he does get points off for that. That was kind of a messed up thing to do. We're gonna put him in B tier with the other gods so far. But he's gonna go, I think I'm gonna give him 1 up on Ares just because he slayed. You know what I mean? Like Hades at least has a reason to be bitter and awful towards the gods and towards demigods because of the way that the gods treat Hades. Hades and Dionysus have their lives being miserable in common. Ares is just there to fuck with kids because he can and he wants to. His life doesn't have to be miserable. I don't even think his life is miserable. He's just doing that because he finds it fun. Next, another god. We have Hephaestus. I love Hephaestus. He is so precious. He is a good god so far in the show. Did he almost kill Percy with his trap? Yes. However, he changed his mind and he came around and I loved him. I want to put him at like the top of A tier. And I know that that's like probably not the place he needs to be, but I loved him. Okay. I just adored him. Next, we have Hermes. This one's interesting. We got to see Hermes talk about his relationship with Luke in the show, which I didn't think we would get. And I think that that's interesting. We know that he cares about Luke. He made that evident. We know he cares about Luke. But also at the same time, he is spending all of his time in a casino. So Hermes is not the best dad, obviously. But I did really like Lin-Manuel Miranda's performance as Hermes. I also think that the scenes where he's talking about Luke, like the minute that Annabeth says to him in the casino, "We're friends of Luke," and the way that his face drops, that got me. That did get me, unfortunately. So I am going to give Hermes, we're gonna put Hermes at the top of B tier. For now. I'm aware that he is a deadbeat father, okay? We are not defending Hermes. However, in season 1, he kind of ate. I'm not gonna lie to you. Next, we have Luke. Luke is a very interesting character. In terms of his arc throughout all 5 books, obviously he's S tier. That's a given. Even his arc of just season 1, I find, really fascinating. I think he is such a good character. So I am going to put him in S tier. The thing that I have to figure out though is where in S tier does he belong? I do find his character more interesting than Grover's. I'm sorry. Grover, I'm so sorry. I don't want to do this, but I am going to put Luke above Grover in S tier. And this is nothing against Grover, I swear. Next, we have Medusa. Now, this is a tricky one because in the show, we were given a very unique look at Medusa. We got to approach her as not just a villain. We got to humanize Medusa a little bit. That was really fascinating. But then we also did see Medusa try to turn our trio to stone. So she's not a good person. But the writing of her character, I loved. And I thought that she was fascinating. I think Medusa in Greek mythology in general is extremely fascinating. Like, depending on what story you read, she is just a very interesting character. Like, at first, I want to put her in A tier just because she's written so cool in this show. And I find her to be fascinating. And I don't think she deserves to go below any of the gods because the gods screwed her over. The gods literally ruined her life. So it feels mean putting her below the gods. I think I'm gonna put her in A tier. No. Oh my god, doing a tier list for somebody who is incredibly indecisive is actually a really bad idea now that I think about it. If I put her in A tier, then I would also have to put Hermes in A tier because I feel like I'm intrigued by her character in the same way I'm intrigued by Hermes. So she'll actually go in B tier just below Hermes. Just below him, okay? Next, we have the Minotaur. Negative points for trying to kill Sally Jackson. He sucks for that one. We're putting him in D tier. Above Gabe, shockingly enough. But he tried to kill Sally, and I cannot stand for that. Next, we have Nancy Bobofit. Obviously, we only see her in episode 1, but she is bullying Percy. So how dare you? She's gonna go at the top of D tier. Boo! We hate bullies. I say that while Clarice is in A tier. Don't look at me, okay? Next, we have Percy. I think it's pretty obvious Percy has to be at the top of S tier, right? It's Percy Jackson. This is a Percy Jackson tier list. Also, I like the way that Percy's written in the show. I think he's fantastic. I think Walker is a perfect casting for Percy Jackson. Yeah, Percy easily goes to the top of S tier for me. Very close with Annabeth though, mind you. Next, we have Poseidon. Okay, listen. I know that Poseidon is not a good dude. A, what he did to Medusa, Not good. He also left Sally and has not talked to Percy his entire life. And I know he's really not allowed to, but still. However, consider this. He is hot. He is yummy to look at. Okay? So consider that. Also consider the fact that in episode 8, I do really love what they did with Poseidon, how he surrenders the war to save Percy's life. The show makes me like Poseidon a whole lot more than I think I do in the book. I don't know if they were intending to do that, and maybe it's the fact that Toby Stephens is attractive. Okay? Any scene that he was in, though, was absolutely fantastic to me. So I do have to consider that. I think what I want to do is I want to put him here. But he's not a better person than Grover. But I don't want to put him in A tier. No, actually, maybe he can go in A tier because he does stink. But I love him. But also, he's not the best dad in the world. But also, that's not his fault, but also it is. You know what I mean? These characters are really complex, okay? So trying to fit them into a tier is honestly very hard. It's a lot harder than it looks, I promise. Next, we have Sally Jackson. Now, that's my girl. Sally Jackson is my girl. Especially in the show. Oh my god, I love her. I think, you know, I want to put her, like, here. But obviously, I have to be normal about this. With the flashbacks we got of Sally, that added a lot to Sally's character. She is such an incredible mother to Percy. She is an incredible woman. I might put her there. Okay, I think I'm going to put Sally there. Which I feel like is kind of crazy. And I definitely feel like I have bias towards the character of Sally, but this is my tier list, okay? So what I say goes. Last, but definitely not least, we have Zeus. Very unfortunate that the actor who played Zeus has passed away. I think that Lance Reddick was a absolutely fantastic Zeus. He knocked it out of the park. Now, the character of Zeus, not the best dad, all right? Turned his daughter to a tree, tried to kill Percy, blamed Percy for stealing a lightning bolt, which is just crazy. He's kind of crazy overall, if you really think about it. Yeah, he's definitely not the best. I think I'll put him, I don't want to put him in A tier just because we didn't see a lot of him. I'll put him, no, yeah, I'll put him right there. Right below Hermes, just because I found Hermes a little more interesting. And Hermes actually shows, or like indicates that he cares about his kids. Obviously, we haven't seen how Zeus is around any of his kids because we haven't seen him with Thalia, but he really tried to kill Percy without any hesitation. So he does kind of suck for that. So yeah, this is my tier list of the characters of season 1 of Percy Jackson. Let's go over it. In D tier, we've got Nancy Bobofit, a bully. Krusty, enough said. Augustus, boring. Minotaur, tried to kill Sally. And Gabe, the worst. That's D tier, and I'm happy with that D tier. Next, in C tier, we have Echidna, who also tried to kill Percy and the trio, but she kind of slayed at the same time. So that's why she's there. Next, we have Chris Rodriguez, kind of a boring character this season, didn't really do much, wasn't really there. Then we have Alecto, also tried to kill Percy and the trio. And then we have the Chimera, who also tried to kill Percy, but I like the design of the Chimera. That is the only reason that he is in C tier and not D tier. Next, we have B tier, aka the tier of the gods and Medusa. We've got Hermes, who I find really interesting, and I really like the dynamic between Hermes and Luke, and I find it super fascinating. So that's why he's at the top of that tier. Then we've got Zeus, then Medusa, just because the way she's written is really, really interesting, and I liked how they wrote her in this show. Dionysus, who just hates kids, but is forced to be around them 24/7, so we do feel bad for him for that. And at least he's funny. Then we have Hades. He did slay. He did slay. However, he also did try to trap Percy and Grover in the underworld, so, you know, points off for that. And then we have Ares, who is just straight up stupid. Just straight up dumb, and let a bunch of 12-year-olds outsmart him. That's embarrassing. In A tier, we have Poseidon. Because I like how he tried to save Percy, I think he does care about Percy and Sally. And also, he is hot. Okay? Then we have Hephaestus. Loved him. Annabeth convinced him to change his mind. We know why he doesn't like the gods. We know that he holds grudges against the gods. I thought he was precious. Then we have Chiron. He's great. Very wise man. Didn't see too much of him in season 1, but I still liked him. Then we have Clarice. Is she a bully? Yes. However, I love her. Okay? Have you ever considered that maybe I love her? She did serve face anytime that she was on screen, she absolutely served face the entire time, so I do have to respect that. And you know, I feel bad for her, getting blamed for being the lightning thief when she simply was just not the lightning thief. Finally, we have S tiers. We're gonna start at the bottom of S tier and work our way to the top. We've got Grover, love him, and that's nothing against Grover. He grows more interesting as the books go on, so he will grow more interesting as the show goes on. Then we have Luke, love him, loved his betrayal scene. He is such a fascinating character, and I liked getting to see the flashbacks of him and Percy in episode 8. Next, we have Sally Jackson. That is my queen, and I love her. We got to know so much more about the character of Sally in this show. The way that she's written is so fantastic to me. The flashbacks of Sally and Percy and the flashback of Sally and Poseidon added so much to Sally's character. It's actually insane to me. She was just amazing. And she's such a good mom. I just feel so attached to her as a character, and I didn't expect to feel that attached to her before the show came out. But the show managed to make me feel attached to Sally Jackson, and I think that if the show was able to do that, then she deserves to be here in S tier. She's also the driving force behind most of the show. She's the driving force behind a lot of Percy's actions. So we're putting her in S tier. Next, we have Annabeth, one of the best characters in the entire show. Depending on who you ask, the best character in the entire series of the books. She is great. She's funny, she's smart. She, as a character, kind of goes through a sort of emotional journey in this show when it comes to blindly loving the gods, to not so blindly loving them, seeing their flaws, and realizing that maybe it's better to put your faith into your friends than your gods. So she goes on a really interesting journey in this season, in my opinion, and I just love her. And obviously, number one, it's his show. He is Percy Jackson. I love how they made Percy in this show. I think that he is a perfect Percy. He is funny, he's sarcastic, he is impertinent, as he says himself, and I just think that he is the heart and soul of this show, obviously, because of course it's called Percy Jackson. But just like his relationship between every character that's on this list is so fascinating. And Percy Jackson as a character in itself is such a fascinatingly written character, like in the books. And in the show, they're making him just as fascinating, in my opinion. So deservedly so, he gets #1 spot in the S tier. So that's my tier list of the Percy Jackson characters in season 1 of the show. Again, this is based off of just the show, not the books. I can do one based off of the books, like all 5 books, if you guys want. I think that that'd be kind of fun to do. That's a lot of characters. We'd probably narrow it down to like just, you know, the main characters and the main gods and whatnot. But so let me know if you want me to do a tier list based off the books. But this is what we're working with for the show. This was a lot of fun. Let me know what you guys think. What characters would you move? What characters do you disagree with in my tier list? I'm sure that there's quite a few that you think should not be where they are, but that's fine. Make sure you check out all of my other Percy Jackson videos because there are a lot of them. I love to talk about Percy Jackson on my YouTube channel. And I think that it'll be really interesting to do this again after season 2 comes out and see where these characters end up after a new season of them. I think that that'll be really interesting. But yeah, that does it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.